Hello all. At another session on Tableau. It's going to be exciting. And any kind of data analysis that you wanted to perform with any type of data, you cannot escape relating your analysis with respect to some kind of uh, you know computations or calculations that you wanted to perform it. So aggregation is something that all of you might have heard even when you're doing things in your database, as well as you wanted to perform something in Excel. Also, you could have come across this aggregation. And this comes in handy for us if you wanted to, to do our analysis in a very um, in a fast manner, and also you wanted to give a very solid kind of understanding to the analysis that you wanted to perform. Naturally, what is going to help you is the different types of function support. So if you take any kind of software, this function support is something which is available. So Tableau is definitely a no exception to that. And this Tableau also will come up with a lot of functions. First of all, let us try to understand why do we require some kind of functions. Basically, it shouldn't be called as only aggregate functions. Specifically functions, how it is going to help someone means, if you imagine that you are having a car and the car runs smoothly without any problem only if all the only if it's brakes and accelerator, clutch, wipers, all these components should work together. Only if all of these things is working together, you can drive a car comfortably and appropriately. So similarly in Tableau also, what happens is that we have some kind of a different kind of function categories, and each of these categories, the function, what I mean is that maybe you can relate your brake to a function which is in Tableau, a clutch which is equivalent to a function which is in Tableau. Okay, because each of the things like clutch or your brake, everything is trying to achieve some functionality, right? So similarly, instead of a car, right now what you have is definitely a Tableau software, and this Tableau software could be used efficiently, and whatever operations that you are going to perform using your Tableau software is going to make sense if it is going to be supported by lot of functions. So we have different functions, and in fact speaking, we have categories of functions. Okay, and in each category, Tableau has lot of built-in functions which will essentially help us to perform the calculations and visualize the data as per our requirements. And that too, you can do that easily. That's the overall objective of why do you require something called as a functions. Now, talking about the functions in Tableau, you have these classes of functions, or these categories of functions are there. Okay, so it is actually categorized depending upon the type of the data that you're going to visualize. Okay, so if you try to visualize something related to the product and the number of units sold, so what is the associated functions which will come into play is a lot of mathematical functions will play a role when you are trying to do a visualization with these two categories. In case if you wanted to, if you are trying to perform an visualization like, you just wanted to identify the relationship between two columns. So if it is sunny, then it is going to be, then you're going to play a tennis. If it is rainy, no chance for play. So the kind of relationship that you wanted to exist with the two fields basically. So when you wanted to do a logical kind of comparison between these two fields, then your logical function comes into play. Okay, so as I said, depending upon the type of the data that you're going to visualize it, aggregation functions or logical functions, any kind of functions will take up its role so that your visualization is becoming better. Okay, so of course we cannot cover every functionality in this session. So, but then the most commonly used function is an aggregation function. So let's look into what are the various functions which is available in aggregation functions, and also we'll look into how the date function, what are the functions which is associated. Anyways, I'm not going to discuss each of these things, but overall, I'm just going to give you an idea. Okay, so if you take a string function will allow you to manipulate the string. Okay, according to your requirements, you can actually do a manipulation. Say, for example, you have a string like hello. Okay, but you just wanted to, say, for example, you have an employee database which is being maintained. Okay, now you just wanted to fetch the last or the first names of an employee. Okay, so from the employee name column, you just wanted to pick up only the first and the last name of an employee. Okay, and then you want that to be put in a new field or a column. Okay, so you can do this by to concatenate. You can do this by making use of your string functions basically. Okay, so you can make use of trimming to trim the specific part of a string. Okay, and you wanted to convert all your string from uppercase to lowercase, you have a function ready for you. And you wanted to do an ASCII, you can actually do this. So like, if you wanted to return only the leftmost string of your you wanted to find out the leftmost substring from your string, you can do that by making use of the left of function. Okay, so if you have a string as Miss Sudroli, comma 2, then it will identify, like, let me just show you here. I think most of you would have understood the string functions. Let me just show you what do I mean by that. Okay, so this is the string I have. Miss Sudroli is the string I have. Now what I wanted to do with this string is that I just wanted I just wanted to make use of a left function here. So I'll just use a left function. How do I use this is, I will just use left with the string. So I will directly pass my string, which is Miss Sudroli is the string that I'm passing it, followed by the number. Okay, so this number represents the length of your substring. Okay, so then this will give you the output of your substring. It will consist of the two values only. Okay, so the length of your substring is going to be 2. Okay, so you can just get, as Miss MS is the substring that you will be getting. So similarly, if you use a write, it will start from L and I is the substring that you might be getting it. Okay, so this is one way you can make use of your string. And then there is mid also. So middle value, if you wanted to find out, you can just specify you will just use here, instead of a left, you will use a mid, and you will just specify the two values. That is the range you will specify. So in between 2 and 4. Okay, so in between 2 and 4. So this is my 1 and 2, and this is 3, and this is 4. So in between this 2 and 4, there is a dot. So that is the output that I'm going to get it. Okay, so but here most of the time the string is always starting with an index 0. So if it is starting with the index 0, this is 0, and this is 1, and this is 2, and this is 3, and this is 4. So this in between this 2 and 4 is yes is there. So it is going to return me the value as yes. Similarly, you can make use of an ASCII. Okay, so ASCII, like, for example, if I will say ASCII, I'll use it, and then I can give directly the character for which I wanted to get the ASCII value. Say, for example, I'm giving it as A. So then immediately I'm going to get the result as 65. Okay, so this is one way you can make use of your string functions. And then character is there. You can actually give the character, and then you can supply the number. Okay, suppose if I give character of 65, what is going to be the output? A is going to be the output. Okay, and you can use a you can also expect a Boolean kind of output when you wanted to perform some kind of operations with your string. Say, for example, you can make use of a function like contains is one function which is there in your string. You can make use of this contain, and the arguments that you will be passing is string and substring. These are the arguments that you will be passing it. So probably I will make use in this way. Contains, maybe I'll give a string as, Mumbai. Okay. And then the substring, what I'm giving it as, maybe I will give mum as the substring. Okay. So this is equal to true. You will just check if it is equal to true. Okay. So this will obviously return for me true, just because mum is actually present in the string Mumbai. Okay. So that way you can make use of your string, and then we can use with ending with. So it needs to return a true if the given string is ended with a given substring. So for example, you will be using ends with, then you are going to use a string and a substring. Okay. So say for example, if I will use the string also as Mumbai and the substring is also mum, then it is going to return me false, because it is not ending with mum. So if you will give a by, then it is going to give me a true. Okay. Then you other than that, you can make use of your uppercase and lowercase. Just you will use upper, then in the inside you are going to pass the string. Okay. So this automatically will get updated into a uppercase. Okay. Everything will become an uppercase. And you can make use of maximum function and also the maximum function. You can use it with respect to a string. So say for example, you have max of a comma b. Okay. So a should be one string and b should be some other string. So maximum, like, for example, if I will give maximum of cat, and then I will give here maybe beer. So maximum of these two is actually beer, because beer is having 4 characters. Okay. So likewise, there are a lot of functions which we can talk about. If you would ask me to, continue with that, I'll be going on continuing with the string functions explanations itself. However, so these are the different types of functions that you can make use of it whenever you wanted to work with your string functions. So let's shift our focus towards understanding the number functions also. Okay. So this is about your string functions, and then we have our, number function. So number function is something which is, we wanted to perform some kind of calculations on the data. So most of the time, this number functions is something which we will be using along with the measures. Okay. So anything which is containing a numerical values, then you will make use of this number function. Suppose, for example, you wanted to calculate your square root, power, exponential, all of these things you can make use of your number function. So for most of the time, when this will be useful means maybe when you are dealing with a bank data set. Okay. You wanted to round off the balance of all the customers, then you will use something called as a round function, which is here, right? This is round function. So these are all some of the common functions, list of popular functions, you could say it in number. Okay. So ABS is going to actually return you the absolute value. So let me just go to my whiteboard again so that your process will become easy for you. Yeah. So what I'm going to use is that this ABS is the function, right? Which is nothing but your absolute value. For a given number, it is going to give an absolute value. So if I'm giving it as absolute of 10.75, it will give me the result as 11. Okay, so that's the absolute value. And you have something like maximum. So maximum, you will supply 2 numbers basically. Here one number will be there, and also one more number will be there. Okay, so 2 numbers you will supply it. Okay, and among that you need to find out the maximum. Suppose, for example, you have two things like, revenue is there in your data set, and then you have expense is one more thing. Okay. So between the revenue and the expense, whatever is maximum, it is going to just display that one. Okay. So that's about the, suppose for example, I'm giving it as max of 78 and 95, 96, then it is going to give me the result as 96. Okay. So that's the maximum. Similarly, you can make use of minimum function also. Then you have commonly used function is a ceiling function. Okay. So this also is a rounding off. Most of the time you will give it in a floating value, and ceiling 4.265 if you give, the sealed value is basically 5, which is your round off. Okay. And floor is also very much similar to the ceiling, but ceiling, what happens is that in a whenever you're rounding a number to the nearest integer of equal or a lesser value, then you call that as a floor. Suppose for example, I have a floor function applied for the same number 4.265. What is the output I'll get is 4, meaning that I will actually round to a number which is equivalent or something which is lesser than. Okay, that is floor. If it is a higher one, then it is going to be a seal. That's the difference. Okay. And then rounding off function is there. So round off function, as you know, you can have like 6.45, some number like this, and you can specify how many numbers you wanted to round it off. So suppose if I will specify it as 2, what it is going to do is 6.67. Okay. So that's the meaning. It only 2 digit after your decimal, 2 digit, it will round off. Okay. So this shouldn't be this should be 7, just because of the reason this is 6, which is above 5. So that's the reason it is 7. So this is about your ceiling functions. Then you have pi value, degree, square root, exponential. All of these things also could be used in your number function. So just to give you an overview on the number functions, I'm just explaining you all of these things. And then next what we have is a date function. See, date function will allow you to manipulate your data which is related to your time, year, and then date and days. Okay. Suppose you wanted to convert the days in hours, or you wanted to find out like all the hours, you wanted to convert it to minutes, something like these things. If you wanted to do with respect to your data, then you can get the assistance from the built-in date functions which is available in Tableau. Okay. So there are a lot of functions that you can speak about in a date also. So there is today, and then year, day, month, all of these things are there. So these are some of the functions definitely available in Tableau to help you achieve, whenever you wanted to perform some kind of conversion in the hours or something like that, you wanted to do it, you can perform it. So let us see how we can make use of these functions. Just today off, if you will use, just it is going to print the current date today. So it is 2021, and then 11, and then 6. Okay. So no, it should be an year, and then followed by a month, and then it should be followed by a date. So this is the format it will print it today. Okay. And then you can make use of another function which is called as day off. So day off function, for any particular date you wanted to know what is the day of that corresponding date, you can make use of day off function. So you need to pass the argument date inside here. So you will pass it like this, day off, then you will specify it as, with the hash you need to specify it, 2021, then followed by 6, and then 11, then there is a hash here. Okay. So this is the way you can make use of your day function. So obviously it is going to return today's day. So today's day is going to be Saturday. Okay. So otherwise, you might be thinking like it will be displaying it as Saturday, but here what it will return obviously is an integer. So it will just return the day, that is 11 will be returned. Okay, and then you have one more function which is your now of function. So that will actually give you the current date and the time. Okay, so date, you know very well, this is the format it is going to print it. Okay, so this format it will be printed, and then it is going to print the time also. So time, again, it is going to be printed in maybe 10, 5, and then 60. So of hours followed by minutes followed by your seconds. Okay, then you will have your AM or PM. So this is the way your now function will display the output. Then we have something called as a date different. So this is if you wanted to find out the difference between date 1 and date 2. Okay, so you can make use of this date difference function also could be used. Okay, and if you wanted to find out whether the given date is present in a particular data set or not, if you wanted to find out that, then you can make use of is date function. So is date you will use, inside you will just pass the string, you will just pass it as a string, whatever you wanted to search it, and you will say it as true. Okay, it will return true if the string is available in the data, otherwise it is going to return the false one. Okay, so these are some of the functions which is related to your date. Okay, and then what we have is the type functions. So conversion functions is also there. So conversion functions, you can actually modify the data type of one. I mean, if you have in your source, you have one data type and you can actually convert it to another type. Okay, so you can convert using dates into strings. If you wanted to do it, you can do that. Okay, so for which these type of functions are going to be useful for you. So if you give date of expression, if you give it, what is the output it will give is that it is going to return the date of that particular function. So similarly, floating could be given, and then integer, all of these things could be used in terms of your type conversion. And now what we need to focus on is definitely your aggregate functions. So aggregate functions is definitely playing a very vital role, because of the reason that most of the time we end up dealing with numerical data. Okay, so if you think Tableau as something, a tool which is going to make graphs and reports, yes, it is a tool which is going to help you to make graphs and reports, but you can obtain the optimum for your data representation. If you wanted to do a crisp visualization, or if you wanted to have an optimum visualization out of the data that is being given to you, then you need to work with the data. So if you have to work with the data, we end up using various functions which is available with the data. Okay, see, the simplest example that I could give you is that, see, if I am a class teacher for one particular class, somebody would ask me how many of your students in your class is above average. I have to give the count, right? So I can give the count only if I have utilized the Excel sheet properly, and I have made use of the formulas that is available in Excel properly. So formulas in the sense the functions which is available in Excel properly. So once if I have used these functions properly in Excel, then I can give the results in a very, within a short span of time, I can give the answer. Whereas if I do not know how to make use of the functions in Excel, and if somebody is asking me how many students in your class is above average, whole lot of calculations I have to do it in my hand, right? So say, for example, 60 students are there in my class. Among these 60 students, how many are above average? I have to perform a complete aggregation of whatever marks they have obtained, from three, I mean, if they have 3 term exams, for all the 3 term exams, how many of the marks they have uptime, I have to do an aggregation and I have to do an averaging. After that, I can identify who are all the students who is above average, right? Lot of computation is involved, right? But these computations will become really useful if I'm able to make use of the functions which is available in Excel properly. Okay, so the same way, if you have to make a proper visualization, naturally you will have to work with your data. Okay, so for that only, main thing is aggregate functions are used. See, aggregate functions are basically built-in functions, and that will allow you to summarize or change the granularity of your data. Okay, so for all these are all the aggregate functions which is available in your Tableau. Okay, so let's try to understand some of these functions, because I haven't showed you how you can actually create your aggregate functions in your Tableau also. So let me just do one thing. Okay, so I have something called as a sample data here. Okay, I've just copied the sample here. It's a very simple one. You have, this is something which I created by myself to show you the working of this aggregate function. So I have products basically. So as you can see here, there are some products: HTC, Oppo, Samsung, Sony, and Vivo. These are the products which is there. And I have the number of units sold also. Okay, so you can see that. Let me just interchange this otherwise, so that you will get a better visualization. Okay, so now I have the products in my column and the units sold is there in my rows. Okay, so you can make out HTC has been sold, units sold is 80, and then Oppo is 70 and Samsung is 100. Everything is going fine. Okay, now I just wanted to find out, I mean, I wanted to make use of an aggregate function. When I will make use of an aggregate function, if you know if I have a database like this, or a data set is something like this, say for example, so this is the data set which I have. Two things are there, right? One is your product name is there, and the another one is your units sold. That's all is there. So now I have HTC. Okay, now we have not associated a day or a date here. Assume that you are having an association of day, and on Thursday this HTC is being sold 10. Okay, similarly on Wednesday HTC is sold, I mean, how many units are sold on Wednesday means it is a 3 items. Okay, now if somebody would ask me in the last month how many HTC is being sold, okay, so what I should do, if I should definitely perform a kind of aggregation functions, I need to make use of it in these situations. I hope you got my point. Okay, so with that process, basically we are going to understand how we can make use of the several aggregate functions. First of all, I need to tell you how you can make use of the aggregate functions. You go to analysis, click on analysis, click on create calculated field. Here you can give name for whatever aggregate functions you're creating, average. And then what I'm going to do is that I'm just going to compute the average for which one I'm going to create the average means units sold. I'm creating the average. That's all. Okay. So there is a red here because I haven't closed the brackets. Okay. So now the calculation is done. So now click on OK. You can see that average is here. So now let us remove this part. Okay. And then with the average, let me do the visualization. Are you able to make out the difference? HTC earlier it was showing 80. Maybe the existence of two products, two instance was there. Okay. So that's why when it did an averaging, it became to 40. But remaining things are it is having the same thing. Okay. So like this is the way you can make use of your aggregate functions in your Tableau. So one example which I showed you is average. Okay. Similarly, you have one more function. I will little speak about this function also. Okay. So let me just close this. Okay. So one more function is basically an attribute function basically. Okay. So let me just show you what is the meaning of an attribute function also. So as I said, this attribute function is something which is going to return the single value. Okay. And let me show you how this is happening. Okay. So now I'm just uploading from my computer that attrition one data set, which is a very simple data set again, which I have created. So which is having three things like, state and city is there. And then you have the, um, you know, uh, state, city, and then it has a value, sales value is there. Okay. So let me just put the state in my column. So it is having Kerala, Maharashtra, Manipur, Tamil Nadu, something. Here, if you could see, 3 states are there. Okay. Similarly, here, 2 states are there. Okay. This is what you need to remember now. Now I'll put the sales here in my rows. Okay. So you can see the rows is here and my state is here. Now what I wanted to make use of is, I just wanted to make use of a function called as an attribute function. Okay. So I'm sorry, I'll just remove it. Okay. I'm just going to do it one more time because, so attr. Now I'm going to use my attribute function. For what I'm going to make use of attribute function means for the state, I'm going to make use of attribute. Okay, state. Okay, fine. So now I click on OK. Okay, now you go here and see. Okay, so what this the primary objective of this attribute function is that whenever you will have a unique values, it will return the value itself. In case if you do not have a unique values in your calculated row, then it is going to give a null value. Okay, so that's all will be the functionality of your attribute function. Then we have a collect function. So this is something which you will be using it for your spatial fields. So it will just combine the values in the argument field and then null value can be ignored. Okay. So you can make use of your collect function, and very important function which you will be using for many of the aggregate functions is of course your correlation. So correlation, as you know, you will be using it to find out for two fields. If you have two fields, you just wanted to identify what is the correlation between these two. Say for example, of state and a sale. What is the correlation? You wanted to identify that. Okay. So if I have to do this, then what I'm going to do is that I'm just going to create a calculated field, and then I'm going to just say that correlation is the function which I'm going to use it. I am going to give the first one as state and the second one as sales. Of course, there will be no correlation here. Okay. And let me just change this also. Okay. So yeah. So this correlation, actually there will be no correlation between the states and the sales. So that's the reason it is, giving me this error. Okay, so let me just give something else. City. Okay. and then I'm going to give state. Okay. Okay. So yeah, so this is the way you will make use of your correlation function. And what exactly it is going to help you to do is that, see, you will associate a value. It will return a value, correlation value between the expression 1 and the expression 2. If you get any values which is ranging from -1 to +1, then anything which is in the negative side is going to be a negative correlation. Anything which is in the positive side, it is going to be a positive correlation. 0 denotes no correlation. So state and sales, no correlation. That is the way you will make use of your correlation function. And then you can make use of your count of. Count of is just you just wanted to return the number of values which is present in the selected column. Then you can use the count of function. Okay. And covariance is there, and which is again for two expressions you will use covariance. And the positive variance indicate the variable is moving towards the right direction. And we will discuss about these things in the trends also. Similarly, maximum and then medium, minimum, percentile, all of these functions could be used in your Tableau's aggregate functions. Okay. So of course we haven't explored every function. We haven't done a demo on every function, but what you can do is that this is the way you can make use of the aggregate function. So you can just go ahead and explore every function possible. And exploration of every possible function depends upon the data set that you're going to use also. So in that sense, you can make use of the different kind of aggregate functions which is available, and you will get an idea on what each of these functions is ought to do. And also you have a logical functions. As you see, these are some of the logical functions that you can use it. So we saw already the demo of how we can make use of these functions. So I just wanted to conclude in this manner. So if you do a better manipulation with the data, then you're going to have a better visualization. So that's the whole idea of why you got exposed to something like functions. Okay. So hopefully you got an idea on what are the things that you can do to get a better visualization. So the next session is going to be focusing on what sort of visualizations we can perform, keeping our focus on to the cross tab chart. Okay. So see you in the next session. Thank you.